Ambassador Zelthara stood in front of the massive view screen on the Confederation ship Harmony's Edge. 300 years of planning had led to this moment. The blue and green planet below them looked peaceful and beautiful. Earth, home to the species called humans. Zelthara's forearms moved quickly over the control panel. The ambassador's purple skin glowed softly with excitement. Today would make history. The Galactic Confederation had never made a mistake during first contact. They had a perfect record with over 200 species. The protocol manual sat nearby. 847 pages of careful instructions. Every possible situation was covered. Every word was planned. Every gesture was practiced. The Confederation knew exactly how to welcome new species to the galaxy. Begin transmission sequence Alpha 77, Zelthara ordered. The ship's computer started sending the carefully crafted message toward Earth. Mathematical formulas filled the signal. Prime numbers, geometric patterns, universal constants. Any intelligent species would understand these concepts. The message was beautiful. It showed intelligence. It showed peaceful intentions. It proved the Confederation's advanced technology. According to the manual, Earth's leaders would respond within 48 hours with their own mathematical reply. Far below on Earth's surface, Dr. Ben Martinez sat alone in the NASA Deep Space Communication Array control room. It was Saturday night. Most people were home with their families. Ben was eating cold pizza and watching old movies on his laptop. He liked the quiet weekend shifts. No pressure, no bosses, just him and the stars. The computer made a soft beeping sound. Ben looked up from his slice of pepperoni pizza. A new signal was coming in. This was unusual. The array mostly listened for natural radio waves from space. Signals from other countries were common, but this looked different. Ben put down his pizza and moved to the main console. The signal was strong. Very strong. It came from way out in space, much farther than any human satellite. The pattern was not random like natural cosmic noise. It was organized, structured, intelligent. Holy cow, Ben said to himself. His hands shook as he recorded the signal. The mathematics were incredible. Whoever sent this was way smarter than humans. This was it. This was first contact with aliens. Ben stared at the screen for 10 minutes. His mind raced. He should call his supervisor. He should call the government. He should call someone important. But it was Saturday night. Who would believe him? Who would even answer their phone? Then Ben had an idea. He picked up his cell phone and called his friend Jake Sullivan. Jake owned a small brewery in town. He also loved radio equipment and weird science stuff. Jake would know what to do. "Jake, you need to get over here right now," Ben said when his friend answered. "I think aliens are trying to talk to us." "Very funny, Ben. Are you drunk?" Jake laughed. "I'm serious. I'm at the NASA station. There's a signal coming from space. It's definitely not from Earth. You have to see this." Jake's voice changed. He could tell Ben was not joking. "I'll be there in 20 minutes. Don't touch anything." Jake Sullivan was not a scientist. He made beer for a living. But he loved electronics and had been a ham radio operator since high school. He understood signals and communications better than most people. If Ben said this was important, it was important. Jake drove his old pickup truck way too fast through the empty Saturday night streets. He arrived at the NASA facility with a backpack full of radio equipment and a six-pack of his best beer. The security guard knew Jake from his previous visits and let him through. Ben showed Jake the signal. Jake's eyes got wide as he looked at the mathematical patterns on the screen. "This is real," he whispered. "This is actually real. What do we do now?" "I don't know," Ben admitted. "The manual says to call the director, but he's probably asleep. This seems too important to wait until Monday." Jake studied the signal for a few more minutes. The aliens kept sending the same message over and over. They were obviously waiting for a reply. "They want us to answer," he said. "We should answer. But what do we say? I'm just a weekend duty officer. You make beer. We're not diplomats." Jake pulled his portable ham radio from his backpack. "We say hello. We tell them we got their message. We're nice and polite. How hard can it be?" Ben was not sure about this idea. But the aliens kept sending their signal. They were waiting. Someone had to respond. "Okay," he said. "Let's try it." Jake connected his radio to the array's transmission system. He had done this before for emergency communications tests. The setup was simple. His radio could send signals into space using the big dish outside. Jake thought about what to say. The aliens had sent mathematics, but he did not know enough math to reply properly. Instead, he used Morse code. Dit-da-dit-da. Short and long beeps that spelled out letters. He had learned this in Boy Scouts 20 years ago. His message was simple. Hello, space friends. Earth says what's up. We have beer. Jake sent the message 3 times, then waited. Ben watched the computer screen nervously. They had probably just made the biggest mistake in human history. But at least they had tried to be friendly. High above Earth, Ambassador Zelthara stared at the response in confusion. The signal was primitive. Audio pulses in a basic pattern. And what did it mean? The translation computer could not make sense of the message. This was not how first contact was supposed to work. Ambassador Zelthara called an emergency meeting. The ship's best scientists gathered in the main conference room. The translation computer sat in the center of the table, making soft humming sounds as it tried to understand the human message. Report, Zelthara said to the head translator, a tall being with 6 eyes named Crixtal. The signal is primitive but clearly intelligent, Crixtal explained. The pattern suggests a basic communication method. But the content is puzzling. They mention celestial mechanics with the phrase, "What's up?" This could be a deep philosophical question about the movement of stars. And the other part? Zelthara asked. They speak of something called beer. Our database shows this is a fermented beverage made from plant materials. Many species consider fermentation sacred. This could be their primary cultural sacrament. Zelthara nodded slowly. Humans were more complex than expected. A species that could ask profound questions about the cosmos, while also speaking of sacred fermentation rituals. Prepare a proper response. We must show respect for their philosophy and their religious practices. Back on Earth, Jake was having the time of his life. He had been talking to aliens for 6 hours straight. The conversation was weird, but it was working. Sort of. Ben had given up trying to stop him. Every time Ben suggested they should call someone official, Jake would say, "But they're talking to us right now. We can't just leave them hanging." The aliens kept sending long, complicated messages. Jake responded with simple Morse code phrases like, "That's cool," and "Tell me more." He had also taught them some Spanish words he remembered from high school, including hola and amigo. When he ran out of proper words, Jake started making sound effects. Beeps for yes, 2 beeps for no, a long whistle for confusion. The aliens seemed to like this. They started copying his sounds and making their own. "I think they're learning," Jake told Ben excitedly. "Listen to this." He played back the latest alien message. Mixed in with their normal signal patterns were some of Jake's whistle sounds. Dr. Amy Foster was grading papers in her small apartment when her phone rang. She taught linguistics at the local university. It was past midnight, so this had better be important. "Professor Foster, this is Dr. Ben Martinez from NASA. We have a situation that needs your help." Amy knew Ben from some radio astronomy classes she had taken years ago. He was a good guy, but not someone who would call in the middle of the night unless something was really wrong. "What kind of situation, Ben?" "Well, we've made contact with aliens, and my friend Jake has been talking to them for 6 hours using Morse code in Spanish. We probably need someone who actually knows about languages." Amy thought this was a joke until she heard the excitement in Ben's voice. And the worry. "I'll be right there," she said. Amy arrived at the NASA facility 30 minutes later with a thermos of coffee and her laptop full of linguistics programs. She found Ben looking stressed and Jake looking like a kid on Christmas morning. "Listen to this, Professor," Jake said. He played the latest exchange between him and the aliens. It sounded like a very strange conversation between a ham radio operator and a computer that was trying to learn English. Amy sat down at the console and studied the patterns. The alien signals were incredibly complex, mathematical, musical, and linguistic all at the same time. Jake's responses were simple but friendly. Somehow communication was actually happening. "This is amazing," she said. "They're adapting their communication style to match yours, Jake. They're learning from you." "See? I told you they were smart," Jake said proudly. Amy started typing on her laptop. She had programs that could analyze language patterns and find common structures. Maybe she could help improve the communication. She crafted a careful message introducing herself as a language specialist. She explained that she wanted to help improve their conversation. She used proper grammar and formal tone. It was exactly the kind of message a professional linguist should send to an alien species. The aliens' response was polite, but brief. Then they went back to talking with Jake. "They like you better," Amy said to Jake with surprise. "Maybe they think I'm more fun," Jake replied. He sent another message. "My friend Amy is really smart about words, but I do better with the fun talking." The alien response was much longer this time. According to Amy's translation program, they were asking Jake about his role in human society. They wanted to know if he was a leader or teacher. "Tell them you make beer," Amy suggested. Jake sent the message. The response from the aliens was immediate and excited. They asked dozens of questions about fermentation, brewing, and the cultural importance of alcoholic beverages. "I think you just became humanity's first ambassador," Amy told Jake. While they were talking, Chris Warren was having a very strange night. Chris ran a food blog and had been at Jake's brewery earlier that evening, trying the new seasonal beer. He had been about to go home when Jake got the weird phone call from Ben. Chris was curious, so he followed Jake to the NASA facility. The security guard knew Chris from the local newspaper and let him hang around outside. Chris could hear Jake's excited voice through the open windows. Chris started live tweeting the whole thing. His first tweet was simple. "My friend Jake is talking to aliens at NASA, not joking." Nobody believed him at first, but Chris kept posting updates. He shared photos of the NASA building with all the lights on. He posted audio clips of Jake's side of the conversation. He tweeted every detail he could see and hear. Thread 147. Aliens love craft beer. "Here's what's happening right now," Chris typed on his phone. By dawn, Chris had 3,000 followers and his thread was being shared around the world. News trucks were starting to arrive at the NASA facility. Government cars with dark windows were pulling into the parking lot. Inside the control room, Amy was working with Jake to establish better communication protocols. They had taught the aliens basic English words. The aliens had taught them some simple concepts in their own language. "They want to visit," Jake announced after reading the latest message. "They want to come to Earth and meet us in person." Ben nearly choked on his coffee. "Visit? Here now?" "They're asking about landing procedures and diplomatic protocols," Amy said, studying her translation software. "They want to follow proper procedures." Jake was already typing his response. "Come to my brewery. We'll have a party. Bring friends." Amy grabbed his hand before he could send it. "Jake, you can't invite aliens to a brewery party." "Why not?" "They like beer. They like talking. They seem friendly. What could go wrong?" Ben and Amy looked at each other. They both knew Jake was right about one thing. The aliens did seem friendly, and somehow Jake's casual approach was working better than anything in the official first contact manuals. "Okay," Amy said finally, "but we're calling the government first." "Sure," Jake agreed. "But the party invitation stands. These guys have been traveling through space for who knows how long. They probably want to relax and have some fun." High above Earth, Ambassador Zelthera was preparing for the most unusual first contact mission in Confederation history. Instead of meeting with world leaders in a formal ceremony, they were going to something called a brewery party, with a human named Jake who seemed to be some kind of fermentation philosopher. 3 days later, the aliens were coming. Jake had spent those days planning the biggest party of his life. Word had spread through the small town faster than gossip at a church picnic. Everyone wanted to meet the space visitors. Mayor Lisa Thompson was not prepared for this. She had been at her daughter's soccer game when the news broke. Now she was standing in her office, still wearing her World's Best Mom t-shirt, talking to government officials on the phone. "Ma'am, we strongly recommend canceling this event," said the serious voice from Washington. "First contact should be handled by trained professionals in a controlled environment." Lisa looked out her window at the brewery parking lot. Half the town was already there, setting up tables and hanging decorations. Mrs. Betty Rogers was directing traffic with the authority of someone who had organized every church potluck for the past 20 years. "Sir, with all respect, these people aren't going anywhere," Lisa said. "This is happening whether we like it or not. I can either help organize it, or I can watch it turn into chaos." She hung up the phone and walked outside. Jake was testing his sound system, while Amy worked with government translators who had arrived that morning. Ben was setting up chairs with help from half the volunteer fire department. "How's it going, Jake?" Lisa asked. "Great." The aliens said they're bringing gifts. "I told them we'd have food and music. This is going to be awesome." Lisa shook her head but smiled. In 30 years of small-town politics, she had organized countless events, but never one for visitors from space. What do you need from me? Traffic control mostly, and maybe help with parking. I think more people are coming than we expected. Lisa looked around. People were arriving from all over the county. News trucks lined the street. Government vehicles were parked everywhere. I'll call in extra help, she said. Mrs. Betty Rogers approached with a clipboard. At 72 years old, she was the town's unofficial event coordinator. She had organized every funeral, wedding, and celebration for decades. Lisa, dear, we need to talk about the food situation, Betty said. I've got 47 people bringing covered dishes, but we need to coordinate. Can't have everyone bringing potato salad. Betty, we're having first contact with an alien species. I don't think they care about our potluck organization. Betty gave her a look that could freeze summer sunshine. Honey, good manners are good manners whether you're from Earth or Mars. These visitors are guests and we're going to treat them right. Lisa knew better than to argue with Betty Rogers. What do you need? Tables mainly, and extension cords for the crockpots. Oh, and someone should ask Jake what aliens eat. I don't want to serve them something that makes them sick. Meanwhile, Amy was working with a team of government linguists who had flown in from 3 different agencies. They were trying to prepare proper translation equipment and official greeting protocols. The informal approach has worked so far, Amy explained to Dr. Patricia Wells, the lead government linguist. Jake's casual style seems to put them at ease. That's fine for initial contact, Dr. Wells replied. But formal diplomatic relations require proper procedures. We've prepared official statements and gift exchanges according to international protocols. Amy looked at Jake, who was currently explaining the rules of cornhole to a group of curious townspeople. I don't think Jake is much for formal protocols. The alien ship arrived exactly when they said it would. It appeared in the sky like a silver cloud that suddenly became solid. The ship was beautiful, smooth and glowing with soft light. It landed gently in the field next to the brewery. The crowd went quiet. Everyone stared as a door opened in the side of the ship. Ambassador Zelthara stepped out, followed by 3 other aliens. They looked like tall, graceful humans with purple skin and extra arms. They wore flowing robes that seemed to be made of starlight. Jake walked forward with a big smile.
Hey guys.
Welcome to Earth. I'm Jake. We talked on the radio. Zelthara approached carefully. The ambassador carried an ornate box that glowed with inner light. This was the ceremonial gift, a crystal containing the wisdom of 1,000 civilizations. It was priceless beyond imagination. Greetings, Jake of Earth, Zelthara said through the translation device. We bring gifts from the Galactic Confederation. This crystal contains the collected knowledge of many worlds. Jake accepted the box with appropriate respect. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out a plastic card. Thanks, that's really cool. Here, this is for you. It's a frequent customer card. Every 10th beer is free. The other aliens gathered around to examine this strange gift. Dr. Wells stepped forward quickly. Ambassador Zelthara, on behalf of the government of the United States and the people of Earth, we formally welcome you to our world. Zelthara nodded politely to Dr. Wells, then turned back to Jake. We would like to understand your fermentation rituals and learn more about this gathering of your people. Oh, this isn't a ritual, Jake said. It's just a party. Come on, let me introduce you to everyone. What followed was the most unusual diplomatic event in history. Jake led the aliens around the party like they were old friends visiting from out of town. People lined up to shake hands or arms with the visitors. Children asked if they could touch the aliens' glowing skin. Teenagers took selfies. Mrs. Betty Rogers marched up to Zelthara with a casserole dish. You must be hungry after that long trip, dear. Try some of my tuna casserole. It's been in the family for generations. Zelthara accepted the dish with all 4 hands. The ambassador's translation device worked overtime trying to understand Betty's rapid-fire instructions about reheating and proper serving portions. Mayor Lisa found herself explaining local government to an alien who was fascinated by the concept of elected leadership. So the people choose their leaders, and they can choose different ones later? Every 4 years, Lisa confirmed. Though sometimes it feels like a popularity contest more than a serious election. The aliens were amazed by everything. They had never seen a species that approached first contact with such casual friendliness. No formal ceremonies, no careful protocols. Just food, music, and genuine welcome. Dr. Wells kept trying to guide the conversation toward official business, treaties, technology exchanges, diplomatic agreements. But every time she started talking about formal matters, someone would interrupt with offers of food or invitations to try the cornhole game. The aliens' advanced food synthesizers could create any dish in their database, but they had never tasted anything like Betty Rogers' cornbread. When they asked for the recipe, Betty laughed. "Oh, honey, that's a family secret. Been passed down for 4 generations. I can't just give that away." The aliens were puzzled. Their technology could analyze the cornbread and determine its exact composition, but the concept of family secrets and traditional knowledge was completely foreign to them. "Why do you keep the knowledge hidden?" one of the younger aliens asked. "It's not hidden exactly," Betty explained. "It's special because it stays in the family. Makes it more meaningful, you know?" Jake started a game of cornhole with 2 of the aliens. They were terrible at it, but they seemed to enjoy trying. Every time they missed the hole completely, Jake would shout encouragement, "Good try. You'll get it next time." As the sun set, the party was still going strong. The aliens had tried 17 different casseroles, learned 3 card games, and been invited to 6 different families' Sunday dinners. They had also been asked to judge the local chili cook-off next month. Zelthera sat at a picnic table with Jake, Amy, and Mayor Lisa, sharing a beer and watching the crowd. "Your species is remarkable," the ambassador said. "We have contacted over 200 civilizations. None have welcomed us with such immediate trust and kindness." "Well," Jake said, "you seemed friendly. And you like beer. That's good enough for us." Dr. Wells made one final attempt at formal diplomacy. "Ambassador, we should discuss the terms of Earth's membership in the Galactic Confederation." Zelthara looked around at the party. Humans and aliens were playing games together, sharing food, laughing at jokes that didn't quite translate but were funny anyway. "Perhaps," the ambassador said, "your informal approach has much to teach us about diplomacy." 2 weeks after first contact, the small town had become the center of the galaxy's attention. Alien ships arrived daily, bringing visitors who wanted to experience the human method of diplomacy. Jake's brewery parking lot was now an unofficial embassy. Dr. Ryan Clark arrived on a Tuesday morning, driving his beat-up Honda through a crowd of reporters and alien tourists. Ryan was an anthropologist from the state university. The government had sent him to study what they were calling the greatest diplomatic success in human history. Ryan found Jake behind the bar, teaching a group of young aliens how to pour beer properly. "The foam is important," Jake was explaining. "Too much and it tastes weird. Too little and it's boring. Mr. Sullivan, I'm Dr. Clark from the university. I'm here to document this cultural exchange for academic research." Jake looked up from the beer taps. "Sure, Doc. Want a drink? These guys are buying today. Apparently their money is made from actual gold." Ryan accepted a beer and looked around the brewery. 3 alien species were playing pool in the corner. A delegation from the Zentorian Republic was learning to make nachos in the kitchen. Ambassador Zelthara was having an intense conversation with Mrs. Betty Rogers about the importance of family traditions. "This isn't exactly what I expected," Ryan admitted. "Yeah, everyone says that," Jake replied. "But it works, you know. They're happy. We're happy. What else matters?" Ryan started taking notes immediately. As an anthropologist, he was trained to study cultures and social interactions. But he had never seen anything like this. Humans and aliens were mixing together like they had been neighbors for years. The aliens' advanced technology was being used in ways their creators never imagined. Their universal translators had become party favors. People were using them to finally understand what their pets were thinking. The results were mostly disappointing. "My cat just thinks about food and judging me," complained Jenny Martinez, Ben's sister. "I thought she might have deep thoughts about life or something." The aliens' gravity manipulation devices were more popular. The local teenagers had convinced one alien scientist to help them build the world's most incredible skateboard ramps. Kids were doing tricks that defied physics while alien engineers took careful notes. "This is not what we designed this technology for," Dr. Vexheim muttered as a 16-year-old boy performed a gravity-assisted kickflip that lasted 30 seconds. "But look how happy they are," replied her colleague. "Perhaps we have been too serious about our inventions." The cultural exchange went both ways. The aliens were fascinated by human cooking, especially the concept that mistakes could make food taste better. Their perfect food synthesizers could replicate any recipe exactly, but they could not replicate the love and tradition that went into Betty Rogers' cooking. Betty had become the town's most important citizen. Alien food scientists visited her kitchen daily, trying to understand why her cornbread was better than anything their computers could make. It's not about the ingredients, honey, Betty explained to a confused Altarian chef. It's about the caring. When I make cornbread, I think about my grandmother teaching me. I think about my family eating it. The computer doesn't have those feelings. The aliens were starting to understand that human culture was not about efficiency or perfection. It was about connection and meaning. Their own societies had become so advanced that they had forgotten these simple truths. Mayor Lisa Thompson found herself mediating disputes between alien species using the same skills she had learned, organizing school fundraisers. The Xentorians and the Pelagians had been enemies for 300 years. But after a few rounds of cornhole and some of Jake's beer, they were laughing together about old misunderstandings. You know, Lisa told Dr. Clark during one of his interviews, most conflicts come down to people not listening to each other. Get them in a relaxed setting with good food, and suddenly they remember they're all just people trying to get by. The government officials from Washington were less happy about the situation. They had wanted formal treaties and technology exchanges. Instead, they got aliens learning to play poker, and humans teaching them about baseball. Dr. Wells made regular attempts to establish proper diplomatic protocols. But every time she organized a formal meeting, it would somehow turn into another party. The aliens preferred Jake's casual approach to her careful procedures. They don't want to negotiate, Dr. Wells complained to Ryan. They just want to hang out and eat casseroles. Maybe that is negotiating, Ryan suggested. Maybe building relationships is more important than signing papers. The biggest cultural shock came when the aliens learned about human sports. They had competitive activities in their own societies, but nothing like Earth's combination of skill, teamwork, and passionate fandom. Jake organized a softball game between humans and aliens. The aliens' superior reflexes and extra arms gave them advantages, but they had never learned about strategy or teamwork. The humans won by working together and encouraging each other. After the game, one young alien approached Jake with tears in her large eyes. "We have forgotten how to play," she said. "Our society is so focused on achievement and progress that we stopped having fun together." Jake patted her shoulder gently. "That's okay. You can learn. Fun is easy once you remember how." The most surprising development was how quickly the aliens adapted to human social customs. They started bringing their own covered dishes to the daily potluck dinners. They learned to appreciate music and dancing. They even started gossiping about each other like old friends. Ambassador Zelthara had become a regular at the weekly poker game. The ambassador was terrible at bluffing but loved the social interaction. "On my world, we make all decisions through computer analysis," Zelthara explained to the group. "This game teaches us about intuition and reading emotions. Very valuable skills." The aliens' children were the fastest to adapt. They played with human children as if species differences did not matter. They shared toys, traded snacks, and made up games that combined alien technology with human imagination. Amy Foster spent her days documenting new forms of interspecies communication. Children were creating hybrid languages that mixed English, alien concepts, and universal gestures. They were communicating ideas that had never existed before. "They're not just learning our languages," Amy explained to Ryan. "They're creating new ways to express thoughts that work across species. It's like watching the birth of a galactic culture." Chris Warren's food blog had become the most important news source in the galaxy. His daily updates about life in the first interspecies community were read by billions of beings across space. He had been invited to speak at universities on 12 different worlds. "The secret ingredient is acceptance," Chris wrote in his most popular post. "Humans don't expect aliens to be perfect. Aliens don't expect humans to be advanced. Everyone just expects everyone else to be friendly and honest." It turns out that's enough. But the real magic happened in the small moments. When Mrs. Rogers taught an alien grandmother how to knit, when Jake helped a homesick alien teenager learn to play guitar, when Mayor Lisa organized a birthday party for an alien diplomat who had never celebrated a birthday before. The Galactic Confederation was quietly studying everything that happened in the small town. Their careful observers took notes on every interaction. They were learning that their own diplomatic methods might need major changes. "These humans have achieved what we have tried to do for centuries," reported one observer. "They have created true interspecies harmony, not through laws or treaties, but through kindness and shared experiences." By the end of the month, representatives from over 50 alien species had visited Jake's brewery. They came expecting to study human culture for official reports. Instead, they found themselves staying for weeks, learning to relax and enjoy simple pleasures they had forgotten. The small town had accidentally become the most successful diplomatic experiment in galactic history. And it all started because one guy named Jake believed that sharing a beer with strangers was the best way to make friends. 6 months later, the Galactic Confederation held its first official meeting using the human method. Instead of a sterile conference room on a space station, they met in a park on the planet Kepler 452b. There were picnic tables, portable grills, and a volleyball net. Ambassador Zelthara stood at a barbecue grill, carefully turning hot dogs with all 4 arms. The ambassador wore a Jake's Brewery t-shirt and a baseball cap that said Galactic Grill Master. Nearby, representatives from 47 different species were setting up a potluck dinner that would have made Mrs. Betty Rogers proud. The Andromedans brought their famous spiral pasta salad. Announced the Confederation's new director of social diplomacy, a cheerful being named Quintel who had learned event planning from Mayor Lisa Thompson. And the vegan delegation has vegetarian options for everyone. Back on Earth, Jake's Brewery had officially become the Galactic Embassy for Informal Relations. The parking lot had been expanded 3 times. The building now included a cultural center, a translation department, and a gift shop that sold "I made first contact and all I got was this t-shirt" merchandise. Jake stood behind his bar, pouring drinks for a mixed crowd of humans and aliens. He wore the same old flannel shirt he had been wearing the night Ben first called him about the alien signal. "Some things never changed. Jake, you've got visitors," called Amy Foster from the front door. She now held the title of Chief Translator for Interspecies Relations, but she still helped Jake manage the daily chaos of being humanity's accidental ambassador. 3 young aliens walked nervously into the brewery. They were from a species called the Tellurians, who had just been contacted by the Confederation. This was their first visit to Earth, their first experience with human method diplomacy. "Welcome to Earth," Jake said with his usual friendly smile. "First time here?" The lead Tellurian nodded cautiously. "We have studied the reports, but we do not understand. How can diplomacy happen without formal procedures?" Jake poured 3 glasses of his mildest beer and gestured toward a table. "Sit down, relax, and I'll explain. But first tell me about yourselves. What do you like to do for fun on your world?" The Tellurians exchanged confused glances. "Fun?" one of them asked. "Yeah, fun. Hobbies. Games. Things you do just because they make you happy." The aliens spent the next hour learning about the concept of recreational activities. Jake taught them to play pool. Amy showed them how to use the jukebox. By evening, they were laughing and singing along to old rock songs they did not understand, but somehow enjoyed. Mrs. Betty Rogers entered the brewery carrying a covered dish and her usual clipboard. At 73, she had become the galaxy's most influential cultural ambassador. Her cookbook, Cooking with Love, Recipes for Interspecies Harmony, was the best-selling publication in Confederation history. "Jake, honey, I brought extra cornbread for our new friends," Betty said, setting down her dish. She turned to the Tellurians with the same warmth she showed everyone. "You boys look hungry. Come on, let's get some food in you." The Tellurians followed Betty to the food table like baby ducks following their mother. Within minutes, she was explaining the importance of family recipes while loading their plates with enough food to feed a small army. Dr. Ryan Clark watched from a corner booth, still taking notes after 6 months of observation. His research on informal diplomacy and community integration had revolutionized the field of anthropology. Universities across the galaxy were establishing programs in human-style social sciences. "Still writing, Doc?" Jake asked, bringing Ryan a fresh beer. "This never stops being fascinating," Ryan replied. "You've accidentally created the most successful diplomatic model in galactic history. And you did it by treating everyone like neighbors." Chris Warren burst through the front door, his phone already out and ready to record. His daily updates from the embassy had made him the most famous blogger in known space. Major news networks begged him for exclusive content, but Chris remained loyal to his original format. Simple posts about daily life in an interspecies community. Jake. The Pentorians just landed. Their whole royal family wants to try your famous nachos. This is huge. Jake shrugged. Royalty, regular folks, doesn't matter to me. Everyone gets the same treatment here. That attitude had become the foundation of the new diplomatic philosophy. The Jake Doctrine, as academics called it, was simple. Treat everyone with basic kindness and respect, regardless of their status or species. Share food. Listen to their stories. Find common ground in simple pleasures. The old Confederation protocols had been quietly retired. The 847-page manual was now a historical curiosity. In its place was a single-page guide written by Jake himself. Be nice. Share food. Listen more than you talk. Have fun together. Mayor Lisa Thompson arrived for the evening council meeting that had become a weekly tradition. Representatives from different alien species joined the town's regular government business. They discussed zoning permits for new interspecies housing developments and approved funding for the annual First Contact Festival. The Zephyrian delegation is requesting permission to establish a retirement community near the lake, Lisa announced. Apparently, they want to spend their golden years learning human fishing techniques and playing bingo at the senior center. The request was approved unanimously. The town had learned that diversity made everything more interesting. Ben Martinez walked in wearing his new uniform as Director of Galactic Communications. He still worked the weekend shifts sometimes, just for old time's sake. The quiet Saturday nights when he could eat pizza and watch the stars reminded him of how this all started. Any word from the Outer Rim surveys? Jake asked. 3 new species made contact this week, Ben reported. All of them specifically requested the Earth treatment for first contact. The Confederation is sending them here for cultural orientation. Ambassador Zelthara joined the group, moving gracefully between tables to greet old friends. The ambassador's weekly visits had become a beloved tradition. Zelthara always brought gifts from other worlds and always left with recipes from Betty Rogers. Jake, my friend, Zelthara said, I have news from the Confederation Council. They have officially adopted human method protocols for all future first contact situations. Your approach is now the galactic standard. Jake looked around the crowded brewery. Humans and aliens were playing cards together. Children of different species were drawing pictures with crayons. Someone had started a sing-along at the piano. That's nice, Jake said simply. But honestly, I just like meeting new people. The rest of this stuff sort of happened by accident. That was the secret, Ryan realized as he wrote in his notebook. Jake had never tried to create a diplomatic revolution. He had just been himself, friendly, welcoming, and genuinely interested in others. His authenticity was what made everything work. Amy Foster clinked, her beer glass against Jake's. Here's to happy accidents, she said. The evening continued, with its usual chaos of friendship and laughter. The Tellurians learned to play darts. Betty Rogers recruited 3 aliens to help with the church bake sale. Mayor Lisa organized a softball game for the following weekend. Outside in the parking lot, children from a dozen different species were playing a game they had invented that combined tag, hide and seek, and anti-gravity flight. Their laughter echoed across the stars, a sound that had become the unofficial anthem of the new galactic age. The annual First Contact block party was 3 months away, but people were already planning. It had grown from a small-town celebration to the most important cultural event in the galaxy. Beings traveled from thousands of light years away to experience the magic of Jake's brewery and the warmth of human hospitality. As the night wound down, Jake stood on his back porch, looking up at the stars. Ships from dozens of worlds twinkled in orbit above Earth. Each one carried visitors who had come to learn about friendship and community. Ben joined him on the porch. Ever wonder what would have happened if you hadn't answered that first signal? Jake thought about it for a moment. Someone else would have figured it out eventually. Maybe it would have taken longer, but people are people, you know? Even alien people. Everyone wants the same basic things, to be welcomed, to be understood, and to have a good time with friends. Amy and Lisa came out to join them, followed by Ambassador Zelthara and several other regular visitors. They stood together in comfortable silence, humans and aliens watching the stars and sharing the quiet satisfaction of a day well spent. You know what the best part is? Jake said finally. We're all still just neighbors hanging out. That hasn't changed, no matter how big this gets. And that, everyone agreed, was exactly how it should be.